Canto Autocraft is best known for its classic car restoration work and highly regarded sheet metal working courses. But Canto has been involved in lots of other projects that are a far cry from the worlds of classic cars and aircraft. When the Room for London architects needed a double curvature hull for their symbolic boat on the top of the Queen Elizabeth Hall, they turned to the Fenland workshop. But the biggest and most exciting commission for Bruce McLeod and his team was the creation of 627 copper petals that formed the Olympic flame at London 2012. Bruce's team of 6 worked flat out for 6 months to produce 3 sets of the petals. One for the Olympics, one for the Paralympics, and 1 practice set. The design of the flame came from the studios of Thomas Heatherwick. Stage 1 Creative Services in York recreated the 204 unique petals on computer, and from these 3D digital renderings, wooden forming blocks were made. The blocks represented the internal shape of the petals, and copper sheet was moulded around them. Bruce McLeod's father, Ian, used dressmaker's paper to create a pattern from a block. This gave him the shape of the blank that he cut from the copper sheet. Ian then gave the petal its first curve. When copper is bent and shaped, it gets brittle. The crystalline structure of the metal breaks down and the sheet can start to crack. To prevent this from happening, the sheet had to be annealed. Heating to a high temperature with an annealing torch softens the metal and restores its malleability. It takes a lot of experience to know how much work can be done to the copper before it needs to be annealed again. Each petal was annealed 40 or 50 times before it reached its final shape, and at the end of each working day the water in the quenching tub was boiling. The first of the double curves was formed by the power hammer. Canto designed and built this machine to make the initial shaping easier, but the metal still has to be wrestled with. Every stage of the shaping process was very physical. The wheeling machine smoothed out the ripples left by the power hammer and helped to retain the even thickness of the sheet. Work moved to the bench, where the wooden blocks were fixed, and the petals were shaped using mallets, flippers and planishing hammers, the specialist tools of the coach builder and sheet metal worker. Petals were alternately hammered and annealed for up to 8 hours before they reached their correct shapes. On the rare occasions that the edge of a petal fell short, a copper strip was welded to it. Chris used a special technique to weld the butted edges together. Because there was no overlap of metal or filler rod used in this joint, the thickness remained constant. Chris's skill fused the 2 pieces as one, and when the metal was worked again, the joint completely disappeared. Each petal had a precisely shaped flange around its edge. Canto bought an echoed power hammer specifically for this job. Its special action nipped and gathered the surface of the metal to prevent spreading and thinning. Dimensions were accurate to 1/10 of a millimetre. The flange was to have the name of a country participating in the games etched into the surface of the polished copper, so Bruce marked the exact position of the mask to be used in the etching process. The corner and edge were marked, and the top edge of the petal was trimmed. Bruce lightly planished out any remaining dents and sharpened the definition of the corner of the flange with the wheeling machine before sanding the edges. After a final inspection, Melanie carefully packed the petals for dispatch. The next time the Canto team saw these petals, they were being carried into the Olympic Stadium by representatives of each country taking part. Each petal was fitted to the Olympic flame mechanism before they were lit and raised into position to create one of the most enduring images of the Games. At the end of the London Games, the petals were given to the country they represented as mementos. More than 400 pieces of British craftsmanship are now treasured around the world, every one beaten from flat sheet by 6 noisy men in the Cambridgeshire Fens.